All right, let's jump right in. This is an original story from Hidden Revenge Family, and it took a turn you truly didn't see coming. Let's get into it.
The clock on the wall read 3:04 a.m. I didn't need to check it twice. My body already knew something was wrong. The kind of wrong that wakes you up without a sound and tells you not to turn on the lights. I stood still on the balcony of our family's lake house in rural Michigan, barefoot against the cold wooden floor. The air smelled damp like algae and old water. The lake stretched out in front of me, flat and black, barely moving. No wind, no noise. Just the soft, steady ripple of water brushing against the dock. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Not careful, not quiet. Strained. I leaned forward just enough to see down toward the dock without exposing myself. My eyes had already adjusted to the dark, but I didn't rely on that. I lifted the compact infrared binoculars I kept in my bag. Standard issue, quiet, reliable. Two figures came into focus. Valerie and Derek. My sister moved first, stepping down onto the dock like she owned the night. Derek followed slower, struggling under the weight of something between them. A sack. Military-grade canvas. Waterproof. Reinforced stitching. The kind designed to carry equipment that isn't supposed to fail. Except this one sagged in the middle, heavy and uneven. Derek let out a short, controlled breath. Not loud, but sharp enough to carry across the still water. He wasn't used to physical work. Not like this. Valerie didn't help him. She just kept walking, one hand gripping the edge of the sack, the other steadying herself. Calm, focused, like this was routine. I adjusted the binoculars, zooming in on Derek's SUV parked just off the gravel path. No headlights, engine off, plates visible. I recorded everything. Plate number, timestamp, location. No panic, no hesitation, just data. They reached the edge of the dock. For a second, neither of them moved. Then Valerie nodded once. Derek shifted his grip, counted under his breath, and they swung the sack forward together. It hit the water with a dull, heavy splash, not loud, just enough to break the surface tension. The lake swallowed it immediately, no floating, no resistance, gone. I kept watching. People always make mistakes after they think it's over. Valerie stepped closer to Derek, her posture relaxing. She smiled. Then she kissed him, slow, confident, like they had just finished something successful. That told me more than anything else. This wasn't panic. This wasn't a cover-up in a hurry. This was planned. I lowered the binoculars, didn't move, didn't react, because reacting too early gets you killed. Or worse, set up. They walked back the way they came. Derek's breathing steadied. Valerie never looked back. I stayed there another full minute listening. Water, silence, nothing else. Then I went inside. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't wake anyone up. And I definitely didn't confront my sister, because whatever was in that sack, it wasn't meant to be found. The next morning, I acted exactly the way they expected me to. Normal. I came downstairs, poured myself coffee, didn't ask questions. Valerie was already at the table scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Derek wasn't there. He never stayed over when he didn't have to. Leaving early, Valerie asked without looking up. Yeah, I said, got things to do. She nodded like that was boring and predictable. Good. I grabbed my keys, walked out, and got in my car. I didn't drive back to base. Instead, I pulled over about 10 minutes down the road in a spot where I had signal but no traffic. Then I made one call. CID Tactical Dive Unit, a voice answered. This is Specialist Evelyn Carter, I said. I need a recovery team. Coordinates incoming. Possible disposal of classified material. There was a pause. Then understood. Time sensitivity, immediate. I sent the coordinates. No extra details. Not over the phone. Within minutes, I was back on the road, heading toward a secondary access point near the lake. Somewhere out of sight of the house. By the time I got there, they were already setting up. Black van, no markings, 4 divers, efficient, no questions. That's why I called them. One of them handed me a pair of gloves. You found it, I saw where it went down. That was enough. We moved fast, no sirens, no noise. Just controlled movement and cold water. 2 divers went in. The lake wasn't deep, but it was murky. Visibility near zero. They worked by feel, guided by the coordinates, and waited descent lines. I stood at the edge watching the surface, still calm, like nothing was underneath it. It took less than 15 minutes. One of the lines tightened, then both. Contact, someone said. They pulled together slow and steady. The sack broke the surface with a wet dragging sound. Up close it looked worse. The canvas was darker now, soaked through, heavy, cold. Water streamed off it in thin lines, dripping back into the lake like it was trying to return what didn't belong above ground. They dragged it onto the shore. I stepped forward. For a second I didn't touch it, because I already knew this wasn't going to be simple. "Open it," one of the divers asked. I nodded. He cut through the reinforced seam. The smell hit first. Not decay, burnt plastic, metal, oil. Inside were dozens of shattered hard drives, military-grade casings, cracked open platters, bent and broken. Mixed in between them, ballistic plates, ceramic, fractured, some split clean in half. Others chipped at the edges, defective, deliberately destroyed. My chest tightened, but my hand stayed steady. I crouched down and picked up one of the plates, cold, heavier than it should have felt. I turned it over, and there it was, the serial number. I didn't need to double-check. I already knew it, because I had signed off on that batch, last month. Same sequence, same lot, my unit's inventory. A slow, controlled breath left my lungs. "Something wrong?" one of the team asked. I didn't answer. I reached deeper into the sack. My fingers brushed against paper, damp, torn. I pulled it out carefully, a transfer document. Half destroyed but still readable in the corners, and in the lower right section, my name, my authorization code, my digital signature, perfectly replicated, not copied, forged, clean enough to pass inspection if no one looked too closely. But I would, because I knew exactly how my signature was supposed to look. This wasn't random disposal. This was staging, evidence, built piece by piece, pointing to one person, me. I stood up slowly, the wet document still in my hand. The lake behind me stayed quiet, like it had done its job. But my sister didn't understand something. Water can hide things. It can sink them, distort them, make them harder to find. But it doesn't erase records. It doesn't delete transaction logs. And it sure as hell doesn't clean fingerprints off contracts. She thought the lake would keep her secret forever. She didn't know I was the one who controlled the system that would bring it back. I folded the document back into the evidence bag, sealed it, and locked it in the case file before I even allowed myself to sit down. A week later, I was back at my parents' house, standing in their kitchen with a coffee pot in my hand, like nothing had changed. The smell hit first: burnt toast, overbrewed coffee, cheap bacon grease. Home. Evelyn. "Can you top this off?" my mom said, sliding her mug toward me without looking up. Of course she didn't. She was too busy watching Valerie. My sister sat at the head of the table like she already owned the place. Back straight, chin slightly lifted, perfect posture like she was posing for a promotion photo, even while eating eggs. Colonel Harris practically confirmed it, my dad said, shaking his head in admiration. "Major by the end of the quarter. That's big, Val. Real big." Valerie gave a modest smile. "Not too big, just enough to look humble. I've been putting in the work," she said, cutting her food into precise, even pieces. "It's nice to see it recognized." Recognized. I poured my mom's coffee, then my dad's, then grabbed a plate someone had left in the sink. No one asked me to sit. They never did. "Evelyn, honey," my mom added casually, "don't forget to rinse that before putting it in the dishwasher. You always leave soap residue." I didn't respond. I just rinsed it again, because correcting her wouldn't change anything. And right now, I needed them comfortable. Derek leaned back in his chair, watching the whole thing like it was entertainment. He had that same relaxed posture he always used. One arm over the backrest, legs slightly apart, like he owned every room he walked into. "Family's important," he said, smiling. "Gotta support each other." I almost laughed. Instead, I grabbed my mug and finally sat down. Not at the head, not even near it. End of the table, same as always. Derek reached down beside his chair and pulled out a thin folder. Clean, professional, already prepared. He slid it across the table toward me. "Speaking of support," he said, voice light friendly. "Evelyn, I heard your department's under internal review." I didn't touch the folder. "Rumors move fast," I said. "They do," he replied, still smiling, "and sometimes they're true." Valerie didn't look at me. She kept eating, but I noticed her hand pause for half a second. That was all I needed. Derek tapped the folder gently. "I've got a small legal fund set aside," he continued. Good lawyers, discreet. You just sign a power of attorney and they'll handle everything, protect you from any misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. That's what they were calling it now. I finally reached for the folder, opened it. Pages of dense legal text, clean formatting, professional language. At a glance, it looked exactly like what he said it was. At a glance. Valerie finally spoke, her tone soft, almost concerned. You should sign it, she said. You've never been great with complicated paperwork. No offense. There it was, the setup, not aggressive, not forceful, just helpful. I flipped to the second page, then the third. I didn't rush, because the trap was in the details. Layered under legal language, buried behind standard clauses, hidden in cross-reference sections. There it was. Level 4 access authorization, not legal representation, not protection. Full financial routing permissions, specifically tied to defense contract funds. Amount $4.2 million, transfer authority automatic. Recipient account under my name. I felt my pulse slow down, not speed up, slow, controlled, because now I knew exactly how they planned to finish this. They weren't just framing me, they were going to complete the transaction, make it real, money trail, signed authorization, my credentials, case closed. Derek leaned forward slightly. Just a formality, he said. Helps us move quickly if anything comes up. Us. I picked up the pen he had placed neatly on top of the folder, turned it once between my fingers. Valerie finally looked at me, not directly, just enough to monitor. My dad cleared his throat. If it helps your sister, you should just sign it, Evelyn. Of course he said that. My mom nodded. Valerie and Derek are trying to help you. You don't want to make things harder than they already are. Harder, right? I lowered the pen toward the paper, paused just above the signature line, and then I knocked over my coffee, straight onto the document. Hot liquid spread instantly across the pages, soaking through the ink, warping the paper, smearing the text into useless streaks. Oh, I pulled my hand back like I'd burned myself. Sorry, I said quickly. I'm so clumsy. I grabbed a napkin, pressing it down uselessly against the damage. Too late. The document was ruined, completely unreadable. I looked up, straight at Derek. Guess I'll have to print another copy next week, I said. Then I'll sign it. His smile didn't disappear. But it froze. Just for a second. That was enough. Valerie's reaction was smaller. A twitch at the corner of her mouth. A tightening around her eyes. Barely noticeable. Unless you knew what to look for. My mom sighed. Evelyn, honestly, you need to be more careful. Yeah, my dad added. This is important stuff. I nodded, dabbing at the paper again like I actually cared. I know, I said. My bad. Derek leaned back again, slower this time. No problem, he said. Accidents happen. But his tone had changed. Just slightly, less relaxed, more measured. Because now he knew something didn't go the way he expected. Valerie stood up, gathering her plate. I'll help clean up, she said too quickly. I watched her walk to the sink. Her shoulders were tight, controlled, but tight. Good. That meant pressure. And pressure makes people sloppy. I stood up, taking my mug with me. No worries, I said. I've got it. She didn't argue, didn't look at me, but I caught her reflection in the window, watching me, trying to figure out what I knew. I rinsed the ruined document under the faucet, letting the last of the ink wash away completely. Then I dropped it in the trash. Just another accident. Just another mistake. Just Evelyn being Evelyn. That's what they needed to believe. Because the moment they realized I was ahead of them, they'd change the plan, and I wasn't done setting the board. Coffee can ruin a piece of paper, but it doesn't delay a verdict. And while they were waiting for next week, I had already started counting down theirs. I pulled into the base parking lot before sunrise killed the engine and sat there for 3 seconds longer than usual. Not hesitation, calibration. Then I stepped out, badge already in hand, and walked straight into the building like I had nothing to hide. Because I didn't. Not anymore. My office lights flicked on, with a low hum. Same desk, same screens, same chair that had seen too many late nights and not enough recognition. I closed the door behind me and locked it. Then I got to work. No emails, no small talk, no distractions. I powered up the secure system and bypassed the standard login route. Manual override, encrypted access, the kind that doesn't leave a visible trail unless you know exactly where to look. Green text started scrolling across the screen. Authorization accepted. I plugged in a secured drive, and loaded the data I had pulled from the lake. Fragmented hard drive signatures, partial recovery logs, serial-linked inventory records. It wasn't clean, but it was enough. I started with the number, $4.2 million. That's not a random amount, not in defense contracts. That's a shipment, a full batch. I ran the trace, line by line, transaction by transaction. The system mapped it out in seconds. Derek's company, front-facing as a mid-tier contractor. Nothing flashy, nothing that would trigger a deeper audit on its own. But the money told a different story. Multiple payments routed through layered accounts, clean on the surface, dirty underneath. I followed the chain, account to account, shell to shell. Every transfer shaved just enough to avoid flags. Professional, too professional for Derek alone, which meant Valerie. I pulled up her clearance profile, public relations officer, high level, access to casualty reports, media briefings, internal communication filters, perfect position to manage what gets seen and what doesn't. I cross-referenced timelines, shipment dates, reported equipment performance, casualty logs. My jaw tightened. Reports had been adjusted, not erased. Adjusted, language softened, causes redirected, equipment failure reclassified as operational variables. People died wearing defective plates. And Valerie signed off on the narrative. I didn't react, I just kept going, because anger slows you down, and I didn't have time for that. I pushed deeper, financial assets, linked properties. Then I saw it, one line buried in a secondary loan structure, collateral residential property, address my parents' house. I leaned back slightly, just enough to process it. She didn't just help Derek. She funded him, using the only thing our parents had, without telling them. I exhaled once, slow, controlled. Then I went back to the screen, because now this wasn't just fraud. This was leverage, and leverage gets people killed when it starts collapsing. A sharp tone cut through the room. Internal alert, not system-generated. Triggered. I didn't move right away. I read the code first. Security escalation. Level 2. Target my terminal. That was fast. Valerie didn't wait. Good. That meant she was nervous. A knock hit my door. 3 times. Firm. Official. I didn't rush. I minimized the screen, encrypted the session, and stood up. Then I opened the door. 2 military police officers stood there. Neutral expressions. By the book. Specialist Carter, one of them asked. That's me. We have an order to seize all personal electronic devices in your possession. Reason suspected unauthorized handling of classified defense materials. I held his gaze for a second. Just long enough to confirm. This wasn't routine. This was targeted. I stepped aside. Come in. They entered, scanning the room. Professional, efficient. One of them pulled out a document. We'll need your laptop, phone, and any external drives. I walked to my desk, picked up my laptop. Standard issue. The one everyone saw me use. I handed it over without hesitation. Then my phone. Same thing. No argument, no delay. Because resistance would raise questions. And I didn't need questions. Not yet. They checked the desk, opened drawers, scanned for anything else. They didn't look under the table. People rarely do. Is that everything? The first MP asked. Yes. He nodded, logging the items. You'll be notified if further action is required. I'll be here. They turned and left. Door closed. Silence again. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then I moved. I dropped to one knee and reached under the desk. My fingers found the latch immediately. Pulled. A slim compartment slid open. Inside, a second laptop. Matte black. No markings. Not standard issue. Not registered to my daily activity logs. This was my real workstation. I pulled it out and placed it on the desk. Opened it. Booted instantly. No startup delay. No noise. I logged in. Direct access. No filters. No restrictions. This system didn't just read data. It moved through it. I reloaded everything. Faster this time. Cleaner. And then I initiated the next phase. Because the laptop I just handed over, that wasn't a loss. That was an entry point. I had prepped it 2 nights ago. Quiet install, no flags. Dormant until accessed externally. Whoever opened it, whether it was Valerie, Derek, or someone working for them, would trigger it. Full backdoor access, camera, microphone, file system, network routing, everything. I leaned back in my chair, watching the first signal ping. Connection established. Right on schedule. They didn't even wait. I allowed myself a small smile. Not satisfaction, just confirmation. Valerie thought taking my laptop would shut me down. She had no idea I just handed her a Trojan horse with full access to her system. I followed the signal down 2 levels below ground, past reinforced doors and security checkpoints that didn't show up on any public map. CID kept their real work out of sight. No windows, no noise, no distractions. Exactly the kind of place where truth doesn't get interrupted. Colonel Sterling was already inside when I stepped into the room. He didn't greet me, didn't need to. He just nodded once toward the main screen. "Let's see what your sister does with her new toy," he said. I set my laptop on the console and connected to the live feed. The room stayed quiet except for the low hum of servers and the soft clicking of data streams locking into place. Then the video came online. Derek's office. Private, high-end, glass walls with blinds partially drawn, clean desk, expensive chair, everything designed to look legitimate. Except they weren't supposed to be there, not with my laptop. Sterling leaned forward slightly. "They didn't turn it in," he said. "No," I replied. "They won't, because turning it in meant losing control. And people like Derek don't give up control." The camera angle shifted slightly as my system synced with all available devices in the room. Ceiling cam, corner cam, desk cam, then audio. Clear, too clear. Valerie stepped into frame first, still composed, still perfect. But there was tension now. Small details, tighter jaw, shorter movements. Derek followed, closing the door behind them. "Let's make this quick," he said, setting my laptop on the desk. He opened it without hesitation. No concern, no caution. That was his first mistake. The system activated immediately, silent, invisible. My screen filled with access confirmations. Camera override complete. Microphone override complete. Network breach complete. Sterling exhaled slowly. "That's clean," he said. I didn't respond. I was already watching. Derek plugged in a USB drive, external data injection. He was about to plant something. Exactly like I expected. Valerie crossed her arms watching him work. "How long?" she asked. "Couple minutes," Derek said. "I'll build a file trail, make it look like she's been moving data for weeks." He spoke casually, like he'd done this before. Sterling's hand tightened slightly on the edge of the table. I noticed, but I didn't react, because I needed more, not just proof, context, intent. Valerie stepped closer, lowering her voice, but not enough. "She won't even see it coming," she said. Her tone changed. Not the polished officer voice, not the careful family version. This was colder, sharper. "She's always been slow with this kind of thing," Valerie continued. "Too by the book, too trusting." Derek smirked. "Makes it easy." I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Focus, pure and steady. Valerie leaned against the desk, watching the progress bar move across the screen. "When the court-martial hits," she said, "it'll be airtight. Unauthorized transfers, classified material, financial gain." She tilted her head slightly. "And the best part? It's all in her name." Sterling's jaw tightened. I heard it, a faint grind of teeth, but I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on the screen, because this was what we needed. Valerie continued, her voice calm, almost amused. "She really thought she could keep up with me," she said. "Same last name does not mean same level." Derek chuckled. "Family discount didn't apply, huh?" Valerie smiled. Then she said it. Clear, cold, final. "Evelyn's too naive. Once the military court convicts her, no one's going to question you." She paused just long enough. "And our parents, they'll cut her off without hesitation." My grip on the edge of the console tightened slightly, not enough to show, just enough to register. Valerie's voice didn't change. "If anything, they'll thank us for cleaning up the mess." Sterling's knuckles turned white. He didn't say a word. Derek leaned back in his chair, relaxed, like this was already over. "House will be fully ours by then," he said. "No debt, no split, no complications." Valerie nodded once. "Exactly." Then Derek added something that shifted everything. Casual, dismissive, like it didn't matter. "Those defective plates," he said. "Not my problem." He shrugged. "Those Marines died because of bad tactics, not my product." The room went completely still, not the office on the screen. The room I was standing in, the CID room. Sterling's breathing slowed. Controlled, but heavy. I could feel it without looking, because that line, that wasn't fraud anymore. That was blood. I didn't blink, didn't move, because this was the moment everything changed. Up until now, this was personal, family, betrayal. But now, this was about dead soldiers, men who trusted their gear, men who didn't come home, because someone decided profit mattered more. Sterling finally spoke. Quiet, tight. They signed off on those shipments, yes, I said. Through Valerie's channel. He nodded once. No hesitation, no doubt. Then this isn't internal anymore. No, I replied. It's criminal. On the screen, Derek removed the USB drive. Done, he said. She's finished. Valerie looked at the laptop, satisfied. Like she was looking at a solved problem. Good, she said. The sooner this is over, the better. She reached out and closed the lid, cutting off their side of the story, but not ours, because everything had already been captured. Every word, every admission, every detail. I saved the file. 3 backups, local, secure server, external, no gaps, no weak points. Sterling straightened up, rolling his shoulders once. Decision made. They're done, he said. I didn't answer right away, because technically he was right. That recording alone could put them away. Fraud, conspiracy, tampering with evidence, military endangerment. Enough to bury both of them, but I wasn't interested in quiet endings. Not for people like them. I closed the laptop slowly. That recording will put them in prison, I said. Sterling looked at me, waiting. I met his gaze. But prison's too quiet for people who built their lives in the spotlight. I closed the file, locked the evidence, and chose not to make the arrest. Not yet. Because catching them wasn't the goal. Breaking them was. I started with Derek. Money first. Always money. I built the identity overnight. Anonymous investor. Clean digital footprint. No traceable origin. Enough credibility to scare him, not enough to expose the source. Then I sent the email. Short, direct. Request for verification of ballistic plate certification tied to his latest contracts. No response. So I sent the second one. Stronger. Withdraw all funding within 48 hours if compliance documentation isn't provided. That got his attention. I watched his accounts light up within minutes. Rapid logins, internal transfers, calls being made. He didn't have the documents, because they didn't exist. Valerie came next. Different approach. She didn't care about money, she cared about control. So I took that instead. I flagged the mortgage file tied to my parents' house, forgery indicators, signature mismatch, authorization irregularities. Then I pushed it through a banking review channel. Within hours, her assets were frozen. Not publicly. Not yet. Just enough to lock her out. Just enough to make her feel it. By the time Sunday dinner came around, both of them were already cracking. But if you didn't know what to look for, you'd miss it. The house looked the same. Lights on, table set. My mom moving back and forth between the kitchen and dining room like she was hosting something important. Which to her it was. Valerie's big week. Her promotion ceremony was coming up. My dad couldn't stop talking about it. They don't just hand out recognition like that, he said, pouring himself a drink. You've earned it, Valerie smiled. But it wasn't the same smile. Too tight, too quick. Her eyes kept drifting to her phone on the table, screen dark. But she checked it anyway, again and again. Derek wasn't there. That was new. Where's Derek, my mom asked. Work, Valerie said. Busy, short answer. No details. Another crack. I took my seat. Same spot. End of the table. My mom slid a dish toward me. Can you pass that down? Of course. I passed it, sat back, watched. Valerie barely touched her food. Fork moved. No real bites. Her leg bounced under the table, fast, uncontrolled. My dad didn't notice. Once you pin that major rank, he said, things are going to open up for you. Bigger roles, more influence. Valerie nodded. Yeah, she said, that's the plan. Her voice sounded normal, but her hand tightened around her fork just a little too much. I caught it, because I was looking for it. My mom turned to me. Evelyn, you should learn from your sister. She knows how to handle responsibility. I almost smiled. Instead, I took a sip of water. Yeah, I said. I'll try to keep up. Valerie glanced at me. Just for a second. There it was, suspicion, growing, good. Dinner dragged on, small talk, praise, plans for the ceremony, all of it floating on top of something they couldn't see, but Valerie could feel it, and it was eating her alive. After dinner, I moved to the sink, started washing dishes, routine, quiet, controlled, water running, Plates stacking. Normal. Behind me I heard footsteps. Fast. Then a hand grabbed my arm. Hard. Valerie. She pulled me toward the corner of the kitchen out of view. Too aggressive. Too fast. She was losing control. Her eyes were bloodshot. Dark circles under them. She hadn't slept. Not properly. Not in days. "What did you do?" she hissed. No greeting. No mask. Just pressure. I turned slowly, letting her hand stay on my arm for one more second before I pulled free. "I did a lot of things today," I said. "You'll have to be more specific." Her jaw tightened. "My accounts," she said. "My access is locked. Funds frozen." She stepped closer. "Fix it. Not a request. A demand." I dried my hands with a towel, took my time. Then I looked at her, straight in the eyes. "Valerie," I said, calm, "even I have no idea what you're talking about." Her expression snapped. "Don't play dumb with me." "I'm not," I said. "I'm just trying to understand how someone like me—" I gestured lightly to myself. "A clumsy desk worker, remember, could touch the finances of a major." Her breathing got heavier, faster. "You think this is funny?" she said. "No," I replied. "I think it's interesting." That did it. Her hand came up, fast, a slap, predictable. I caught her wrist before it landed. Firm, precise, no struggle. Her momentum stopped instantly. She froze. Not because she couldn't move, but because she didn't expect me to stop her. I tightened my grip just enough. Her face twisted slightly. Pain. Controlled but real. "Don't ever raise your hand at me again," I said quietly. No anger, no emotion, just a statement. She tried to pull free. Couldn't. For a second. Then I let go. She stepped back immediately, rubbing her wrist. Her eyes changed. Not just anger now. Fear. "Finally, something's wrong," she said, voice lower now. "And you're in the middle of it." I tilted my head slightly. "If something's wrong," I said, "maybe you should check your paperwork." That hit. I saw it. A flicker. Connection, then denial. She shook her head. "This isn't over," she said. I nodded once. "You're right," because it wasn't, not even close. She turned and walked out of the kitchen. Faster than she came in. I went back to the sink, turned the water back on, finished the dishes like nothing happened. Because for me, nothing had. Not yet. But for her, everything already had. She was panicking over money, but she was about to learn that was just the appetizer, and tomorrow night was the main course. I dried my hands, left the kitchen, and didn't look back. By morning, they made their move. The message came through official channels: Pentagon, restricted meeting, immediate attendance required. No agenda, no details, just time and location. That told me everything. They were out of options, which meant they were about to get desperate. I arrived early, uniform pressed, boots clean, hair tight, no mistakes, no weakness. The hallway outside the meeting room was quiet. Soundproof walls, no windows, no witnesses. Exactly the kind of place where people try to bury problems. I checked the door, locked. Then it opened from the inside. Derek stood there, smiling, but not like before. This one was forced. "Right on time," he said. I walked past him without answering. Inside, the room was already set. Long table. 3 chairs on one side, 1 on the other. They wanted it to feel uneven, like I was outnumbered. Valerie stood near the far wall, arms crossed, eyes locked on me. No mask this time. Just tension, and something else. Fear. Good. At the head of the table sat a general. High rank, clean uniform, calm posture. But his eyes moved too much. He was already uncomfortable. That meant Derek had paid enough, but not enough to buy confidence. "Specialist Carter," the general said. "Take a seat." I didn't hesitate. I sat. Hands on the table, still, waiting. Derek closed the door behind me. Slow, controlled. Then he walked to the table and dropped a thick file in front of me, hard. The sound echoed in the quiet room. "This ends today," he said. Short, direct. No more pretending. I looked down at the file. Didn't open it, didn't need to. "I'm listening," I said. Derek leaned forward, both hands on the table. "You're being investigated for unauthorized distribution of defective ballistic equipment," he said. "Financial irregularities, classified data mishandling." Each word was clean, rehearsed, prepared. He slid the file closer. "All the evidence is here," he added. Signed, logged, verified. Valerie stepped in. "Just sign the confession," she said. "Take the deal." Her voice was tight, controlled. but rushed. She needed this to end. Minimal sentence, Derek added. Quiet exit, no public fallout. The general nodded slowly. This is an opportunity, he said, not a punishment. I looked at him. Really looked. He avoided eye contact. That was enough. I reached forward, opened the file. Pages filled with data, transaction logs, authorization codes, my name everywhere. Perfect. Too perfect. I flipped one page, then another, then I stopped, because they were watching, waiting, expecting panic. Instead, I closed the file, slow, calm. This is what you're going with, I asked. Derek's expression tightened. It's more than enough, he said. He pushed a pen toward me. Sign it. Valerie stepped closer. Don't make this worse than it already is, she said. I looked at her, really looked this time. She was shaking, barely, but enough. Worse for who, I asked. She didn't answer. Derek's patience snapped. He slammed his hand on the table. Game's over, Evelyn, he said. Sign it or you go to court-martial for moving defective armor. Silence. Heavy, tight. The general leaned forward slightly. I suggest you cooperate, he said. I picked up the pen, turned it once between my fingers, set it down, then I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone. Derek frowned. What are you doing, he asked. I didn't answer. I tapped the screen once. That was it. One tap. The door behind them opened. Hard, fast. Everyone turned. Colonel Sterling walked in first. No hesitation, no announcement, just presence. Behind him, 2 FBI agents, badges out, faces set. The room changed instantly. The general stood up halfway, confused. What is this, he asked. Sterling didn't stop walking. Apologies for the interruption, General, he said. His voice was sharp, controlled, final. He dropped a file onto the table. Not mine, a real one. The documents you're reviewing, he continued, are fabricated, created and planted by Derek Hayes. Derek froze, for half a second. Then he tried to recover. This is ridiculous, one of the agents said. Flat, no emotion. Sterling turned to the general. And your accounts, he added, have been flagged and frozen as of 10 minutes ago. The general's face drained. Color gone. What unauthorized financial transfers tied to defense contractors, Sterling said, including Mr. Hayes. Silence. Thick, heavy, the general sat back down slowly. No arguments, because he knew. Derek stepped back. One step, then another. This is a setup, he said. She's enough, the agent cut in, cold, final. They moved in, fast, efficient. One agent grabbed Derek's arm, pulled it behind his back. Cuffs clicked into place, loud, sharp, real. Derek didn't fight, he couldn't. Because for the first time, he didn't have control. I stood up, slow, watched him as they secured him. His face shifted, red, then pale, then empty. Game over, I turned my head. Valerie. She was already backing away. Small steps toward the door, hands slightly raised, like distance could save her. Her eyes locked onto mine, not confident anymore, not controlled, just fear, raw, unfiltered. I stepped toward her. One step, calm, measured. You're different, I said. My voice steady, no emotion. She shook her head slightly. No, Evelyn, listen, don't, I said. She stopped. Because she heard it. Not anger, not threat. Finality. You'll be arrested, I said. Simple, direct. Her breathing broke, but not here. But not here. That's what I told her, and I meant it. By the time the gala started that night, everything was already in place. Lighting, security, seating charts, media presence. Perfect. Exactly the kind of environment Valerie built her career around. Controlled attention, polished recognition, a stage. I arrived early, not in the spotlight, not on the guest list, just inside the perimeter, standing where I could see everything without being seen. Because tonight wasn't about me. It was about timing. The ballroom filled quickly, uniforms, decorations, conversations layered over soft music. Every detail clean, every movement rehearsed. At the front row, my parents. My dad sat straight, shoulders back, scanning the room like he was the one being honored. My mom adjusted her dress twice, then leaned toward him, whispering something with a smile that didn't quite settle. Pride, unfiltered. They believed every word they'd been told, every version of Valerie they chose to see. I watched them for a second longer than I expected. Then I looked away, because this part, This wasn't for them. Valerie arrived exactly on time. Of course she did. Hair perfect, uniform flawless, every detail aligned. From a distance she looked like she always had. Controlled, composed, untouchable, but up close you could see it. Micro movements, her eyes scanning the room too often. Her jaw tightening between smiles. Her phone still in her hand longer than it should have been. She hadn't heard from Derek, and she knew something was wrong. But she didn't know how wrong. Not yet. The ceremony began. Speeches, applause, names being called. Everything moving exactly as planned. Until it was her turn, Major Valerie Carter, the host, announced. Applause filled the room, loud, proud. My parents stood first. Of course they did. My dad clapped harder than anyone. My mom's smile stretched wide, almost shaking. Valerie walked up to the stage, each step measured, each movement precise. She took her position under the lights, facing the room, facing the future she thought she had secured. The host continued. Before presenting this honor, we'd like to share a short video highlighting Major Carter's contributions. Valerie nodded, just slightly, that same controlled smile. She expected praise, recognition, a clean narrative. The lights dimmed, slow, smooth. The room quieted, not silent yet, just quieter. People leaned forward, glasses paused midair, attention locked on the screen. Then the video started. Black frame, 1 second, 2. Then grainy infrared footage filled the screen, night vision, timestamp 0304. The lake. The dock, 2 figures, Valerie, Derek. No music, no narration, just raw footage. They dragged the sack into view, slow, heavy. The room didn't react right away, because it took a second to process. This wasn't part of the program, not the kind of video they expected. Valerie froze. On stage, her smile stayed in place for about half a second too long. Then it broke. The sack hit the water, splash, loud in the silence, too loud because by then the room had gone completely still. No whispers, no movement. Just hundreds of people watching something they weren't supposed to see. Valerie's breathing changed. You could see it in her shoulders, short, shallow, fast. Then the audio kicked in, clear, unfiltered. Derek's voice, those defective plates. Not my problem, no distortion, no background noise. Just him. They died because of bad tactics, not my product. It echoed through the room, every word landing clean, heavy, permanent. Someone in the audience shifted. A chair creaked. Then nothing again, because no one knew what to say, or if they were allowed to say anything. I watched my parents. That was the part I didn't expect to feel. My dad stopped clapping first. His hands froze mid-motion, then slowly lowered. His face tightened. Confusion first, then recognition, then something worse. My mom stood up halfway, like she didn't trust what she was seeing. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her glass, and missed. The glass slipped, hit the floor, shattered. The sound cut through the silence like a gunshot, sharp, final. Everyone heard it. But no one reacted, because they were still watching the screen, still watching Valerie, still connecting the dots. On stage, Valerie didn't move. She couldn't, because there was nowhere to go, no explanation that could fix this, no version of the story she could spin fast enough. The footage kept playing, her face illuminated by the screen behind her, every detail visible now, no control, no mask, just exposure. Off to the side, several senior officers stood up, not in applause, not in support, in judgment. Their expressions said everything: anger, disgust, disbelief, the kind you don't recover from, the kind that follows you into every room after this one. Valerie finally stepped back. One step, then another, her balance off, her breathing uneven. She looked toward the front row, toward our parents. My dad didn't look back. He couldn't. My mom did. But her expression, that was the worst part. Not confusion anymore, not denial, recognition, and something close to disgust. Valerie opened her mouth. No sound came out, because there was nothing left to say. The video ended. The screen went black, but the silence stayed, heavy, unforgiving, the kind that doesn't fade. It settles. It stays. The sound of broken glass was still the only thing anyone remembered. And for Valerie, that was the moment everything ended. The screen went black. No applause, no movement, just silence. Then boots, heavy, controlled, official. Military police moved first. Two of them stepped onto the stage without hesitation. No announcement, no delay. They walked straight toward Valerie. She didn't run, she couldn't. One of them reached up and gripped the insignia on her shoulder, firm, then ripped it off, clean. No ceremony, no respect, just removal. The sound was small, fabric tearing, but in that silence it felt loud, final. The second officer turned her around. Cuffs came out, metal clicked, locked tight around her wrists. That's when she broke. No, wait. Valerie's voice cracked instantly. This is wrong, this is a mistake. Her composure collapsed fast, too fast. She twisted, trying to pull free. Mom, Dad? Her voice shot across the room, sharp, desperate. They're lying. This is a setup. Evelyn did this. She set me up. There it was. Blame. Predictable. My parents moved immediately. My mom rushed forward, first heels, slipping slightly on the polished floor. Valerie, she cried. My dad followed slower, but just as determined. What's going on? This doesn't make sense. They reached the edge of the stage, then stopped, because Colonel Sterling stepped in front of them, calm, unmovable. This isn't a misunderstanding, he said. My dad tried to push past him. That's my daughter, and this Sterling cut in pulling out a document is what your daughter did. He handed it over. My dad took it. Hands shaking now, not from anger, from something else. Fear. My mom leaned in beside him. They read it together, line by line. The mortgage, the forged signature, the collateral, their house, used, signed away, without them knowing. My dad's posture collapsed first. Shoulders dropped, back bent, like something heavy finally landed on him. My mom covered her mouth, eyes wide, not crying yet, just breaking. She didn't just betray her unit, Sterling said, voice steady. She leveraged your home to fund it. No one argued. No one defended her. Because there was nothing left to defend. Behind them, Valerie was still struggling, still yelling. You don't understand, she screamed. I had to do it. I had no choice. No one responded. Because now everyone understood exactly what she chose, and what it cost. I stayed where I was, near the back of the room, out of the spotlight, watching it all collapse. Not with satisfaction, not with anger, just clarity. Valerie's head snapped toward me. She saw me immediately. Of course she did, because I wasn't hiding. I never was. Her expression twisted. Hate, pure, raw. You, she said, voice shaking. You did this. The MPs tightened their grip on her arms as she tried to step forward. You're cold, she spat. You're a psychopath. You ruined everything. I didn't move right away. I let her talk. Let her empty whatever she had left. Because this was the last time she'd have control over anything. Then I walked forward. Slow, measured, every step quiet. The room didn't interrupt, didn't react. They just watched. Because now they knew. I stopped a few feet in front of her, close enough for her to hear me, not close enough to touch. You're wrong, I said. My voice steady. No edge, no heat. Just truth. Her breathing was uneven, eyes wide, still searching for something to hold on to. There's nothing cold about this, I continued. She shook her head. You planned this? No, I said. I held her gaze. Didn't blink. You planned it. That landed. I saw it. A crack. Small, but real. The difference is I added you threw lives away to build something fake. Her mouth opened. No words came out. And I just made sure it got seen. Silence. Heavy. Final. The MPs turned her. Pulled her away. This time, she didn't fight. Not really, because somewhere in there she knew. It was over. I turned away before she reached the door. Because I didn't need to see the rest. I'd already seen enough. Behind me I heard my father's voice. Evelyn, wait. I stopped. Just for a second. Not because I wanted to, because I needed to hear it. Stay, he said. We need to talk, we can fix this fix. That word again. I looked straight ahead, didn't turn around. Because I already knew what I'd see if I did. Regret, confusion, maybe even guilt. But not accountability, not yet. And I wasn't going to carry that for them. Not anymore. I'm not part of this anymore, I said. Simple, clear, no anger, no explanation. Just a boundary. I walked forward. Out of the ballroom, past the guards, through the doors, into the night. Washington air hit different. Cool, clean, quiet. For the first time in a long time, there was nothing behind me pulling me back. No expectations, no roles, no family obligations wrapped in silence. Just space, just breath, just choice. I kept walking, didn't stop, didn't look back. Because loyalty to family doesn't mean protecting them from consequences. And it sure doesn't mean sacrificing yourself to keep their lies alive. Sometimes, the only way forward is to leave them behind. I kept walking long after the noise behind me faded. No sirens, no voices, no footsteps chasing me down the street. Just the sound of my own boots hitting the pavement, steady, controlled, free. That's the word people expect you to use after something like that. Free. But the truth is, it didn't feel like freedom right away. It felt quiet. Too quiet. Because when you cut something out of your life that's been there since the beginning, even if it's toxic, even if it tried to destroy you, there's still a gap. And you have to decide what fills it. I used to think family meant safety, that no matter what happened, there was a line people wouldn't cross. I was wrong. Some people don't see family as something to protect. They see it as something to use. And once you understand that, everything changes, because you stop asking, why would they do this to me? And you start asking, why did I think they wouldn't? That shift matters, more than anything else. For a long time, I confused love with access. I thought if someone was family, they deserved to know everything. My schedule, my work, my weaknesses, my habits. I didn't question it. Because that's what you're taught. Trust them, share with them, stick together. But no one tells you what to do when the people closest to you start using that information against you. Valerie didn't need to hack anything. She didn't need to break in. I gave her everything she needed just by being open. That's not trust. That's exposure. And I didn't realize the difference until it was too late. So here's the part most people don't want to hear. Just because someone shares your last name doesn't mean they deserve full access to your life. Access is earned, not inherited. And if someone proves they can't be trusted with it, you take it back. No explanation required. Another thing I learned, being underestimated, is one of the most powerful positions you can be in. My whole life, I was the quiet one. The one who stayed out of the spotlight, the one who worked behind the scenes. They called me slow, careless, bad with details. They laughed about it. Even at that breakfast table, especially at that table. And I let them, because correcting them would have forced me into their game. And I had no interest in playing on their terms. When people underestimate you, they stop watching closely, they stop questioning, they stop preparing. And that gives you something they don't even realize they handed over time. Time to think, time to plan, time to move without resistance. So if people think you're not a threat, don't rush to prove them wrong. Let them stay comfortable. Comfort makes people careless, and careless people make mistakes. The biggest difference between me and Valerie wasn't intelligence. It wasn't rank. It wasn't even resources. It was control. She needed control over everything, the narrative, the outcome, the perception. I only needed control over myself. And that's a much easier system to manage. When she pushed, I didn't react. When she provoked, I didn't escalate. When she tried to force a decision, I slowed down. Because emotional reactions are predictable, and predictable people are easy to trap. That's something most people don't realize. If someone is trying to get a reaction out of you, they already have a plan for what happens next. So don't give it to them. Calm isn't weakness, it's control, and control wins. But here's the part that hits harder than all of that. The part people don't like to admit. Letting go of your family, even when they deserve it, isn't easy. It doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel strong, it feels final. Because once you see people clearly, you can't go back to pretending. I saw who Valerie really was. Not the version my parents believed in. Not the version she showed the world. The real one. And once I saw it, there was no fixing it. No conversation that could undo it. No apology that would mean anything. Some lines don't get crossed by accident. They get crossed on purpose. And when someone shows you they're willing to do that, you believe them the first time. I didn't walk away because I hated them. That would have been easier, cleaner. I walked away because I finally understood them. And I understood what staying would cost me, because staying would have meant explaining myself over and over, defending decisions I knew were right, pretending things could go back to normal. And normal was never safe, not for me, so I made a choice. Not emotional, not impulsive. Clear, I chose distance. I chose silence. I chose to stop being available to people who only valued me when I was useful. And if you're listening to this right now, you need to understand something. You're allowed to do the same. You're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to walk away from people, even family, if they cross a line that shouldn't be crossed. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you aware. And awareness is what keeps you from becoming the next target. The hardest part wasn't losing my sister. It was realizing she was never on my side to begin with. I didn't beat them by being stronger. I beat them by being more patient. That's the part people usually miss. They think situations like this come down to one big move, one moment, one decision. They don't. They come down to a series of small choices made at the right time. And most of those choices happen when no one is watching. The night at the lake could have ended very differently. I could have run down there, yelled, demanded answers, forced a confrontation. That's what most people would have done. And that's exactly what they were counting on. Because if I reacted emotionally, I would have walked straight into whatever they had planned next. No evidence, no preparation, just my word against theirs. And in that situation, I lose. So I didn't react. I observed. That's the first lesson. Not everything needs an immediate response. Sometimes the smartest move is to slow everything down. Watch, listen, collect. Because once you react, you can't take it back. But if you wait, you can choose your next move. The second thing I did right, I verified everything. I didn't assume. I didn't guess. I didn't build a theory and run with it. I confirmed it, piece by piece. Data, records, timelines, because assumptions get people in trouble. Facts protect you. Valerie had a story, a clean one that made sense on the surface. If I had gone up against that without proof, I would have been buried under it. So I made sure that never happened. And if you're dealing with something similar, at work, in your family, anywhere, you need to understand this. Your feelings don't matter in a system built on proof. Your evidence does. The third thing, I didn't fight on their terms. That's where most people fail. They let the other person define the situation. The rules, the timing, the pressure. Valerie tried to corner me at that table, with the documents, with the pressure, with our parents watching. She wanted a fast decision, because fast decisions lead to mistakes. So I slowed it down, spilled the coffee, delayed the signature, bought time. That wasn't an accident. That was control. And control changes everything. If someone is rushing you, there's a reason, and it's usually not in your favor. So stop, take a breath, and make them wait. Then there's documentation. This is where everything shifts, because once you have proof, you don't need to argue. You don't need to convince. You don't need to explain. The facts speak for themselves. The footage, the audio, the transaction logs, none of it required emotion. None of it needed interpretation. It was clear. And clarity is what makes people uncomfortable, because they can't twist it. They can't spin it. They can't escape it. So if you take anything from this, let it be this document everything, not for revenge, for protection, because when things go wrong, and they will, the person with the record wins. Another mistake people make. They rush the ending. They want resolution immediately. They want closure. They want it to be over. I didn't. I waited. Because timing matters more than truth. You can be right and still lose if you choose the wrong moment. I could have exposed Valerie the moment I had the recording, quietly, behind closed doors. But that wouldn't have changed anything. Not really. She would have found a way to control the narrative, minimize it, redirect it. So I waited. Until the moment when she had the most to lose, the most to protect, the most eyes on her. That's when the truth hits hardest. That's when it sticks. So don't just focus on being right. Focus on when you prove it. And then there's this, you don't always have to destroy someone. Sometimes you just stop protecting them. That's what I did. I didn't create anything. I didn't fake evidence. I didn't manipulate facts. I just stopped covering for her. Stopped staying quiet. Stopped letting things slide. And once I did that, everything she built started collapsing on its own. Because lies need support. They need silence. They need people willing to look the other way. The moment that stops, they fall apart. So if you're dealing with someone like that, you don't need to fight harder. You just need to stop helping them. And finally, you have to accept something most people avoid. You can do everything right and still lose people. That's part of it. There's no version of this where I walk away with my family intact. That outcome doesn't exist. Because the truth doesn't preserve relationships, it tests them. And if they break under that pressure, they were already broken. You just couldn't see it yet. So if you're in a situation where something feels off, where the details don't add up, where people are pushing you to move faster than you're comfortable with, slow down, verify, document. Control your response. And most importantly, choose your moment. Because the difference between losing everything and walking away clean usually comes down to timing. I didn't win because I was stronger. I won because I refused to play their game. And once you stop playing someone else's game, you start controlling your own. I didn't celebrate after it was over. No drinks, no calls, no moment where I sat down and told myself I won. Because that's not what it felt like. It felt finished, clean, like closing a door that should have been shut a long time ago. People like to call what I did revenge. It's not. Revenge is emotional, it's reactive. It's about making someone feel what you felt. That's not what I did. I didn't need Valerie to feel my anger. I needed the truth to be seen. There's a difference. And that difference matters. Because revenge keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. Justice separates you from them. Completely, no connection, no dependency, no need for their reaction, just outcome. That's what I wanted, an outcome. And once I had it, there was nothing left to chase. Here's something most people struggle with. You are not responsible for saving people who chose to hurt others. It sounds simple, it's not. Because when it's family, there's pressure, expectations, history. You start thinking maybe you should fix it, maybe you should step in, maybe you should soften the consequences. I didn't. And that wasn't easy, because there were moments, small ones, where I could have slowed things down, changed the timing, gave Valerie a way out. I chose not to, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because she already made her choice. And protecting her from the result of that choice would have made me part of it. That's the line. Once you cross it, you're no longer the victim. You're part of the system that allows it to keep happening. And I wasn't going to be that. My parents didn't understand that. Not at first. Maybe not even now, because to them, family means sticking together no matter what. Even when it's wrong, even when it's damaging, even when it costs someone else everything. That kind of loyalty isn't strength, it's avoidance. It's choosing comfort over truth. And I get it. It's easier to ignore something than to face it. But easy doesn't mean right, and right doesn't always feel good. Walking away was the hardest part. Not exposing them, not setting the trap, not watching it all fall apart. Walking away. Because leaving means accepting that things won't go back to how they were. No reset, no repair, no version of normal waiting on the other side. Just distance, and space, and silence. But here's what I learned. Silence isn't empty. It's clear. There's no manipulation in it. No pressure, no expectations you didn't agree to. Just you and your decisions. That's where real control starts. A lot of people stay in situations they know are wrong, not because they don't see it, but because leaving feels worse, more painful, more complicated, more uncertain, so they stay, they tolerate, they adjust. They convince themselves it's not that bad, until it is. And by then the damage is already done. I didn't wait for that. I saw the line, and I stepped back before I crossed it with them. That's the part I want you to understand. You don't have to wait until everything falls apart to make a decision. You can leave when you see where it's going. That's not weakness, that's awareness. And here's something else. Your value doesn't come from how your family sees you. It doesn't come from their approval, their praise, their version of who you should be. I spent years being the less capable one, the quiet one, the one who needed help. That wasn't reality. That was their narrative. And I accepted it longer than I should have, because it was easier than pushing back. But the moment I stopped accepting it, everything shifted. Not for them, for me. Because once you stop letting other people define you, you stop needing their permission. And that changes how you move, how you decide, how you respond. So if you're watching this and something in your life feels off, if you feel like you're being pushed into a role that doesn't fit, or staying quiet just to keep things stable, ask yourself one question. Is staying where you are protecting you? Or is it protecting the people who are taking advantage of you? Because those are not the same thing. And once you see the difference, you can't unsee it. I didn't lose everything. I lost what was never real to begin with. And what I gained was something I didn't even realize I was missing. Control, clarity, and the ability to walk away without looking back. So let me ask you this. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace, even when you knew something wasn't right? And if you had the chance to choose differently today, would you?
Final note. This story is a work of fiction, but the valuable lessons we discuss are entirely real and continue to happen to many people every day. If this style isn't for you, that's perfectly okay. Please feel free to look for other content that better suits your needs.